welcome to another episode of Trek Canon. So today we are doing a review of season 2, episode 1 of Star Trek Picard, Stargazer. Now, let me tell you, right off the bat, I love this episode, and I hope you guys got a chance to take a look at it. I did a pre-review, spoiler-free episode of Trek Canon episode of this episode. So if you are watching this and haven't seen the episode of Picard, I suggest you stop this, watch that video, and then watch Picard. It'll tell you, it'll give you instructions on what's going on. But excuse me, you guys will notice I'm in my Starfleet captain's uniform. So already, this was a great episode. I got my notes, and let's just jump right up into it. So the opening theme was awesome. The opening theme of this season, it ranks amongst the top, if not the best, opening theme and intro to a Star Trek episode that I've seen. And that's saying a lot, like I said. Now, we opened up with the episode with Picard on the vineyard and everything like that. And I love the way that they had the portrayal of how classic the vineyard was, but using updated modern technology to do things like the teleportation, harvesting, and stuff like that. That was really cool. The song that they had playing in the background gave me a little flashback to the movie called Fallen, because that was the first place I ever heard that song. By the way, Denzel Washington movie, great movie. Very underrated for some reason. One day I know it's going to be a cult classic though. So if you haven't seen Fallen, I think you should check it out. So that song right there was real cool to have, you know, uh, as an opening theme to what the theme of the episode was, which we'll get into shortly. Now, I wanted to talk about her, right? Now, she's a Romulan, and I don't know if she's half Romulan, half human, or whatever, but we know from classic Trek that Romulans, they diverged as far as from Vulcans, and they are distinguishable by certain, they forehead ridges. I ain't gonna call them ridges. They forehead pattern. Okay, so we'll put it that way. So she doesn't have one, and she's a very beautiful Romulan lady. I rarely ever say that about Romulan females, which is weird because I like Vulcan females. Anyway, besides the point. So that was something that I had noticed, but it wasn't a big thing because again, she's a beautiful young lady, beautiful older lady, whatever. So I like the conversation that she had with Picard. It seemed organic. It seemed natural, and a natural progression of how she would feel and explain her feelings to Picard. And the thing is that they could have went the route where Picard, just fell into it, which they was about to do. But if you know anything about Captain Picard, or in this Admiral Picard, or Jean-Luc Picard as a person, that's how we'll refer to him for the moment. If you know anything about Jean-Luc Picard, throughout Star Trek The Next Generation, one of the things that he always was very private, especially when it came to his love life, his emotions, things of that nature. And so in this season, in this episode, it seemed like they are trying to dive into that frontier of them. Now, I'm getting to that too. Now, Picard had this flashback where with his mom, and it goes to explain why he decided to become an explorer, to look to the stars. Now, the thing is that in his flashbacks, we see that there was something violent happening to his mother, okay? And if, at that point in the episode, you get intrigued, I wonder what's going on. There's some kind of domestic violence, but the way she was drugged down the hallway, right, it leads you to think that it was maybe some type of entity, or maybe she was grabbed by something. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later as well. But there was some type of tragedy that happened to him that he remembered. But it is something that made him guard who he, his feelings and things like that. So we switched to his speech. Now I'm gonna jump around a little bit because that's what I do. Y'all know how I roll. But he's now Chancellor of Starfleet Academy. On a side note, I noticed that in all new Trek they reference the Kobayashi Maru. In classic Trek, the Kobayashi Maru was sort of this mythical test that was, rarely ever spoken of because of, I guess, of the impact that it had psychologically on the cadets, on the Starfleet personnel. Or I could go so far as to say, um, Starfleet personnel, we can see them as being very confident, very assured of themselves, which is very arrogant at points. And maybe the Kobayashi Maru is a representation of a failure that they don't like to admit. Okay, so in classic Trek, the Kobayashi Maru was kind of like I said, this mythical type of, test that people rarely ever spoke of. But in New Trek, it seems like it's something that everybody runs around, just, yeah, how did you do on the Kobayashi Maru, and and all that kind of stuff. So, um, what's his name, Eleanor? He's now a cadet in Starfleet and everything like that, and it's nice to see him. And by the way, the uniforms, again, nice design on the uniforms. The thing is that I wonder why in his conversation and interaction with Eleanor did he never bring up Wesley? He brought up several other people, and of course, the memoir of Spock, which, by the way, is a cool little thing. Nod to keep that character in canon and how important he was. But it was odd that Admiral Picard didn't reference Wesley Crusher to Eleanor. It's interesting that he wouldn't have done that. Let me say, do do you guys remember this guy from Lower Decks, right? In all of Trek, whenever you turn off the safety protocols of a hologram, they become instantly terrifying. And the reason is because unless you can find a way to disrupt them, there is absolutely nothing you can do while they assault you. You just is you can't inflict any damage upon it. You fighting photons that at any moment it has the ability to turn solid and whoop your ass, right? Excuse my Swahili. So let's talk about one of the highlights of the episode to me, the USS Stargazer redesign. Let's all just say, can we agree that that was a beautiful, beautiful redesign of the classic ship, the Stargazer? They put so much love into that ship. The USS Stargazer, that particular design, is now one of my top 5 favorite starships, probably knocking out the Prometheus. Now, what was it? Exuberance enhances the absorption of knowledge. I think I'm going to have to put that in the quote at the beginning of this episode of this Trek Canon review. That is such an interesting, accurate, and awesome quote. And what was it? Exuberance enhances the absorption of knowledge. Wow. You know, to be exuberant, to be highly motivated, to be motivated in soul and spirit, to be exuberant, joyful in your endeavors, enhances the absorption of knowledge. You know what I mean? I try to tell my son that, but didn't use such a quite eloquent, wording. So, but I'm gonna have to steal that right there, y'all. I'm gonna have to steal that. So, let's talk about Guinan. Yes, let's talk about Guinan, played by the great and classic Whoopi Goldberg. Now, Picard goes to see Guinan once because he got some stuff that's weighing heavy on his artificial heart. So he goes to talk to not Troy, no, not Troy, not putting nothing against Troy, but if you really need some counseling, you go talk to the counselor's counselor, and that is Guinan, the OG herself. Now, it is really cool how how Guinan explains the difference between her, because she's an Allurian and she's pretty much ageless as far as humans go, how they explain the difference in how she looks now as opposed to in the Next Generation, because if you remember Time's Arrow, there was no difference in how she looked centuries before the events in Time's Arrow and the events of the Next Generation. So the way they explained that was nice, that her being around humans and being around humans for so long and them aging, they start to feel a little weird that, hey, you're still staying the same, kind of like a vampire, type of complex. And so she decided, that I didn't know Illyrians could do that. She decided to age. I thought that was only something Data could do. Wow. But their conversation, how they met up, the drink that they had, you know, um, just their chemistry still was still nice to see. It was great to see her back in the hat. Guinan's awesome. So we find out that there's this time space anomaly that pops up. And of course, the Stargazer is dispatched to check it out. Seven is dispatched to check it out. I mean, Seven goes to check it out because she picks it up on her scanners as well. And, after a nice little, of course, Seven's a badass, scene. Now, the thing is that when Seven gets aboard the Stargazer, and, oh, by the way, it's nice to see Captain Rios, um, Captain in the Stargazer. He seems like a nice fit. And I'll get into what I thought was the negatives briefly, after I talk about what I thought was good, which was what I'm doing right now. So it was nice to see Captain Rios and everything like that. The ex murdering girlfriend, and I forget what her name is, Dodge or something like that. They had a short scene with the interaction of them two. And so basically they start to pick up this transmission from this anomaly. Now they run it through the computer, through the universal translator, and the computer and the translator can't make any heads or tails of it. So she decides that, hey, she's an expert in this, in all types of high speedness. So she goes over there and decides she's trying to break it down and find out that there's multi-layered languages on top of each other, and basically they're asking for help from Jean-Luc Picard. So this elicits Starfleet to come and find Picard and ask him out, and hey, this is what's going on. And of course, him being the type of person he is, and you know being an explorer and person of curiosity he decides to go and check it out. He has a great reunion on a Stargazer with much respect from the officers and the bridge crew and everything upon his arrival. Now, when they further decipher the message, they realize that it's asking for Article 15, which is admission into the Federation. Now, the thing is that one thing I found weird is that neither Picard nor Seven sensed what was about to happen. That was something that they didn't sense. When we know that even over light years of distance, they can pick up on these particular things, which I'm going to get to in a minute, because this got spoilers, but y'all know how I roll. So, um, look, let me tell you something. They find out, I'm jumping ahead of myself. So Picard opens up a frequency, and everything, and and asks, introduce themselves and let them know that he's there. And you get a familiar voice that booms, through the speakers. I mean, shakes everything. And it's the Borg. Picard. Oh man, I felt it. Next scene, all these Starfleet vessels popping up right there. Okay, because the Borg is now coming through. And let's talk about their design. And it's interesting. It's interesting that that they chose to get the courage to stray away from the typical Borg cube or sphere, or sometimes cylindrical, or sometimes or other in that particular instance. But the basic cube and sphere of the Borg. This vessel looked like some type of arachnid, some type of insect. It looked. Oh man, I ain't even think about that. It almost looked replicator-ish. Anyway, but they ain't gonna stop my excitement. The thing still looked menacing. And so it proceeds to, of course, everybody's on edge. All right. And we through their conversation, we realized the link of what happened after the events of Endgame for Voyager with the pathogen that Admiral Janeway released into the collective. We find out that the collective was mostly decimated from that act. Okay, but here they are in all and plus more of their glory. All right, and when I say they glory, look, so the queen says, hey, I'm going to send over, the Borg say, hey, I'm going to send over a representative, an emissary. And everybody already know, that's the queen. Shields up, right? But nah, they don't. Borg. You know what I found interesting about this is that the graphics that they chose to go with this. If you guys remember the episode Best of Both Worlds, when the Borg beamed through the Enterprise's shields in that episode, all right, um, there was none of that beam and hitting the shields and then it takes time and then it penetrate. That's not something that was shown, but I did like the graphic and how I guess how they tried to say, well, okay, even with the advances of the Federation now, and with all of the things they know about the Borg, which for some reason they don't have an emergency Janeway program in all of the ships that would be instantly activatable upon any contact and only contact with the Borg. All right, but that's neither here nor there. Starfleet sometimes be tripping. So, um, so she ends up beaming through the shields and everything like that, and her silhouette, a dark, I mean, awesome looking, awesome looking. She proceeds to say, "We need some power." Tentacles come out her tentacles come out of from behind her, go into the stations. Right now, everybody's looking. We gonna need to y'all need to shoot at this person. Of course, come on, really shooting at the Borg. We know how that works. Great theme going on in the background, great sound score. You know what, it was a great sound score throughout the entire episode. Come to think of it, from the beginning, like I said, all throughout, the sound score carried a lot of the tension, the angst, the emotion, the excitement, drama, and everything, and the menace of the Borg. And I'm so happy that the Borg have regained the menace that they had in, say, Q Who, and in, say, what was it, First Contact. Those are the Borg that we're familiar with. And look, now they have to initiate self-destruct because the Queen is taking over everything, because that's what the Queen does, and she's taking over the whole fleet. So they have to initiate self-destruct. And the thing is that right when it gets, they use the OG self-destruct code too, man. Look, the OG, search for Spock, self-destruct, destruct 00, destruct 0. Look, I could have, look. So anyway, I get a little excited when it's a great episode of Star Trek, because sometimes, it'd be so far and few in between. And I'm so happy that it seems like they're trying to take Picard, the season of Picard, I mean, series of Picard, off my problem kid list, right? So anyway, we end the episode with Picard waking up in what I can only describe as a shattered universe, a shattered vineyard world, reality, or whatever. And as he looks around, he starts to see that it's a lot of war type memorabilia, the swords and daggers and things like that. And then he turns to see a portrait, which is what I can only think is of him. But it's not quite mirror universe attire. It is not quite mirror universe feel. But you hear it. Good old Q. And look, the de-aging that they did on John Delancey in this episode was flawless. It was flawless, right? It was flawless, okay? And then to have Q snap his fingers, man, and then age talking about some now we even. Of course, that'd be something that Q would do, and there would be, of course, be something Q would say. All right. And do you remember Never mind, I get outside of myself. But we find out that the trial, of course, never ends. So, how did you guys like the episode? What did you guys think? I truly enjoyed the episode. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in episode 2, 3, and beyond. So please leave it in the comments what you guys thought. If you guys, like I said, if you guys dug it, man, if it was worthy of the clap, if it was worthy of the Starfleet, uniform, for this particular video, please subscribe if you haven't. Ring the bell for any future content. And as always, peace, recycle, and say the wells. You guys be cool.